Hello my fellow nurses, in this video we'll be taking a look at the Restoration Druid in Dragonflight Season 1. This video is for people who have never played Restoration Druid, or are a bit lost as to how the spec works in Dragonflight, or people just returning to the spec and want to know how it works now after seeing everyone and their sisters playing it. With that being said, let's get right into it. Restoration Druid is a versatile healing spec that loves to heal damage over time, filled with an arsenal of cooldowns for keeping their team alive in situations where you should wipe, strong single target healing, numerous abilities to help you get out of sticky situations alongside solid passive and active damage. While it looks like it's a very strong healer, there are also some downsides to the spec. A pretty high barrier for entry because it requires to have an idea as to when damage is coming up, a lot of spells that require uptime, very few answers to instant burst or unpredictable intakes of damage, and for last, very lackluster damage reduction spell, and no party-wide spell to reduce damage taken. From Shadowlands, Restoration Druid basically didn't change at all. We kept all the things from the previous expansion and managed to add even more things that before weren't accessible without some mental gymnastics. We can run both Convoke and Adaptive Storm in the same build. We receive Skull Bash to interrupt annoying things. Receive Talons to fix the issue of close to no passive damage in Protector of the Pack and Nature's Vigil, and many more things. In terms of talents, this is what I had success with. It's mostly aimed at pucks, but should work in a pre-made environment as well. Left side, we'll lean towards Feral Form to get Skull Bash right here, so we have an interrupt ourselves. After that, there are two things we should really aim to get. Protector of the Pack here, the Nature's Vigil here. These two talents will pretty much allow us to do damage while healing, or allow us to do a lot of damage with a one button press. The other things we get are mostly healer spells, talents that improve our spells, or our healing output, or just utility alongside some freebies. The right side of the talent tree, the restoration part, is pretty simple when it comes to Mythic Plus. We're going to run a heavy Life Bloom build with an arsenal of healing cooldowns. We're taking basically almost all the talents that buff Life Bloom on this left part, the Covenant spells, Adaptive Storm and Convoke, since they're both really good, alongside every talent that buffs Swiftment, Regrowth, and for last, we're taking every talent that can help us have more instant answers to damage, to make up for our weakness, or just freebies that are on our way to those. For stats, as per usual, we're going to want Haste and Versatility. Haste feels really good on Restoration Druid, allowing you to cast more spells and get more healing over time spells on people, have reduced global cooldowns, and faster healing ticking, so overall win. Versatility is our second desired stat. This is to survive higher keys and to lower the chances of getting one-shot. It will also increase our healing and damage done, so another win here. I leveled Text priority in 99% of the cases, but also keep in mind that you shouldn't stress too much at the start. Just equip what you have, and later on when you're getting to a higher item level, that's when you can focus on these. For Trinkets, it becomes a bit harder if you don't raid as per usual. If you have the look of raiding, you can go for Broodkeeper's Promise and Whispering Incarnate Icon, as these will probably be the best for you even if they're lower item level, as Trinkets are usually used for what they do, not necessarily for stats. If you don't raid, it becomes a bit more annoying but not a deal breaker. Voidbender's Shadow Gem and Static Charge Scale will work. The second trinket is incredibly annoying to get since it's from a world boss, so if you get unlucky and not get it, then just get whatever unequip you can get. I'll put on the screen some equipped trinkets to get an idea as to what you can shoot for. Just like stats, get whatever you can get your hands on at the start and try to work your way into these. Before we get into our important spells and rotation specifics, we need to understand exactly how Restoration Druid works, as it's a pretty different here than the others. A very easy way to explain is that you should think like you're healing with band-aids, and these wounds would probably heal over time. Sometimes you will need to apply more band-aids to that wound so that it heals faster and so on. This would be a very easy way to explain Restoration Druids. Now, let's actually get into the spells we actually need to keep up most of the time or use all the time. We have Scenario Word, Life Bloom, Adaptive Storm, and Nature's Vigil. These four spells should be used almost all the time, if not all the time. Scenario Word is a very strong healing over time, but it has a big 30-second cooldown. Since it will trigger when damage happens, at the start you can throw it on your tank, and over time you can actually use it on someone else that gets targeted by a specific boss ability or a mob ability, as you will feel that sometimes it was borderline useless to use it on your tank. It's mostly an experience thing that over time you will get a feel for. Life Bloom is the core healing over time that with our talents will actually mimic our regrowth on our teammates. Let me explain this. If you and the tank have Life Bloom on yourselves, regrowthing a DPS will actually send the regrowth on you and the tank as well, making it necessary for when you need to ramp up to heal your party, lowering the amount of casting needed and mana costs. You can start by Life Blooming yourself and your tank as per usual, and over time you can actually change that a bit, as in some fights, the tank will get close to no damage and it will feel like a waste putting it on them, allowing you to put this on a DPS. Again, just like Scenario Word, it will require experience that will come over time. Next up is Adaptive Storm. This is basically a shoot and forget spell that has its own mind. It will heal or do damage based on where you initially throw it or what the situation asks. Because of our talents, this thing can spread heavily as there's a chance it can split when jumping to something else, allowing you to swarm everything. As usual, you can throw it on your tank if you have no idea on who to use it, or if you know a trash pack or a boss is easy to heal, throw it on them for some passive damage. I also want to point out that this thing has 5 stacks, so you should prefer swarming something that either has a low amount of stacks or doesn't have a swarm on them. Nature's Vigil is useful as your healing over times will deal passive damage to what's around the target. Because we will have Adapted Swarm on a lot of people, life rooms and other healing spells, this can deal a massive amounts of damage but will just keep people alive. The only tip I can give for this is to make sure you don't really use it when the pack is about to die or the boss is about to die. Just use it on pull, put some healing over times and call it a day. In terms of major cooldowns, we have a lot of them. Let's start with Flourish that increases our healing over time, duration and output. It's a pretty straightforward cooldown, so there's not that much to talk about other than the fact that it has to be used after you ramp up. I say this because the extended duration of the spells doesn't affect in your healing over times, but the increased healing is, so you can use it to expand what you already have on your team and come with new spells if you need more muscle. Convoke can also be used in combination with Flourish. While it will not cast all the healing spells we desire, it will cast some, and eventually, after Convoke is done, we can come with what healing spells are needed or missing. It can also be used to heal on the move. You need a cooldown but you don't want to use one with a long cooldown, or for damage in a shapeshift form. At the start when you're doing lower keys, you can do a Convoke plus Flourish combo to kind of get used to the ramp up style, but later on you will kind of need to learn how to ramp up without it, as it's not always gonna be good to use two cooldowns. I should add that Nature Swiftness plus Convoke will make your regrowth cast in Convoke much stronger. Now personally, I've either been the unluckiest druid on this planet, but it always feels like regrowth is never casted when I do this, but maybe you're more lucky than me. Tranquility is pretty weak, but we can make it work. Sadly, it will require us to stand still, and even then, the second issue is that it will sometimes barely heal. This means that it's a good idea to actually combine it with some more basic spells, at least a Wild Growth plus Tranquility. I will get more into the core spells, but something to keep in mind is that Tranquility stacks. The more you cast it, the more it will heal because its healing buff stacks up to 5. So it kinda starts slow, but it ramps up. Last one that I will talk about is Innervate. I include this one here because I see the mistake of Druids using it as some sort of mana regen tool. You can treat this as your mini Bloodlust, as it will make your spells free, not mana regen. This means that it is very useful for when you need to do a ramp up, as you can eat a lot of your mana when needing to cast the necessary spells for upcoming damage. In terms of rotation, it kinda matters what you need to do. So our 4 friendly leaves are gonna be Regrowth, Rejuve, Wild Growth, and Swiftment. We're mostly gonna juggle those and kind of react or premeditate what we need. If for example your whole team is about to get absolutely annihilated by something, you can Wild Growth into Regrowth to people who aren't Life Bloomed, Rejuvenations, Swiftment, or Initial Swiftness plus Regrowth whoever needs more healing, and you pretty much just repeat this. If the group damage isn't so high, you can actually reverse the bit. Wild Growth into Rejuvenations, into Regrowth whoever you feel is already too low. If only one person is taking damage, then it's pretty much the same without Wild Growth, Regrowth into Rejuve, or vice versa. There really isn't this one perfect way to heal someone with doo-doos, as things will need to be adapted as to what the situation asks due to the nature of Mythic Plus. If someone already has healing over times on them, like Rejuvenation and Regrowth, and they took a massive amount of damage, you can immediately Swiftment to get some of their HP back. Something to keep in mind is that Swiftment needs 1 healing over time on the person, and it will usually prioritize Regrowth, Wild Growth, Rejuvenation, in that specific order. Also, Swiftment doesn't work on a teammate that only has Life Bloom, so keep that in the back of your mind. But if someone doesn't have healing over times on them, then you can try to nature Swiftness into Regrowth, as it makes our Regrowth cast instantly. Take note that your Regrowth in this situation won't be that strong since its healing increases with more healing over times on a person, plus if there's already a Regrowth on the person. Don't forget to put a Fluorescence down pretty much all the time, as it will make your Life bloom for people who are inside it, meaning it will do more healing. Iron Bark is another spell you should use very often, especially in lower keys. It can be a lifesaver for your tank, as it is the only damage reduction spell we have for someone else, plus it increases your healing done on that person. Utility-wise, we're also pretty jacked up. Also, Vortex can help when your tank needs to kite or you need to run away from something seeable, as you'll pretty much tie them to that specific AoE circle you put down. Stampeding Roar will make your team move faster, allowing you to slash a few seconds from the long road to the next trash pack, get your team back after a wipe, or just dodging a swirly on the ground. Entangling Roots is incredibly useful as well. It can stop patrols without you actually getting any aggro and from far away. Skull Bash, while a bit wonky to use, keep in mind that it is not on the global cooldown. That means that you can go into feral form immediately and press your Skull Bash button, as it will be available all the time. It's just gonna be annoying needing to swap around forms. Make sure you also use your defensives. Barking should be used almost all the time you feel you will get slapped around, and is also usable while CC'd. Bear form will also save you a lot of times, as it increases your HP plus armor. Speaking of shapeshifting forms, we also need to do damage when no one is going to get damaged. Hey, can I do in the post-production? I did a mistake here, and I actually said that you should use Sunfire in the damage rotation. In our talents, we don't actually have it talented. For some reason, I thought we had. Here's the deal. If you actually have it talented, then use it. If you don't, just ignore it, okay? Back to the video. How we're gonna do damage is gonna differ, but the general idea is the same. Moonfire if there are a few mobs, Sunfire into feral form. If the trash pack is formed of not that many mobs, then rake them all into trash, and then just rip the highest HP one. If the trash pack is massive, like let's say 5 or 6, you can just spam Sunfire. Feral form, trash, and rip whoever is in front of you for the start, as you'll most likely keep an eye on your party frames. If the mob is low, replace rip with ferocious bite, and there you go. Just repeat these and you're good to go. I should also point out that Protector of the Pack can punch really hard after stacking up on the healing done, so using Moonfire as often as you can will indirectly allow you to use the Stellant naturally. And that's pretty much it. Interrupt, heal, do some damage, and use your abilities for short. Don't be demoralized if you're struggling at the start. It will take time to understand the spec, and the saying wisdom comes with time applies to Restoration Druid. If the video helped you, hit that like button, rest that subscribe button, and let me know in the comments below if I forgot something, since I'm pretty new to making guides. See you in the next one.